Pauli POPcast.
All right, so let's kick off the new year right with a deep dive into something I know is on all our minds, the future of FC St. Pauli.
And especially their future in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, exactly. We're heading over to Hamburg, Germany, virtually, of course.
Oh, yeah.
To kind of tack into the anxieties and the hopes swirling around the club as they, as they're figuring out this whole Bundesliga thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting here because our source material isn't like some dry official report.
No.
We're going deep into a fan podcast.
Oh, cool.
Called O St. Pauli, 2025. Recorded just a few days ago, actually.
Wow.
January 2nd.
Okay, so very, very recent.
Yeah, so think of it like this. We're grabbing a virtual seat.
I like it.
At the Taverna Plaka pub in Hamburg.
Okay.
You know, beers are clinking. Lively debate is filling the air.
I can hear it now.
You got three friends just chatting.
Yeah.
One, a former St. Pauli player.
Okay.
Another one, a self-proclaimed studied economist.
Nice.
And get this, one of them has to cut the recording short for his movie theater shift.
Oh.
Exactly. It's that kind of casual, fan-driven perspective that makes this deep dive so compelling, you know? You immediately get a sense of the passion and the very real dilemmas facing the club and its supporters.
Okay, so let's set the scene on the pitch.
Right.
So St. Pauli is holding their own in the Bundesliga.
They are.
Their defense is solid.
Solid as a rock.
But their offense, well, that's a different story.
That's where the nail-biting starts.
It is, and that leads us to the central question that fuels this whole podcast.
Which is?
Should St. Pauli spend big to stay in the Bundesliga?
That's the question.
Even if it means compromising their, small club principles.
Exactly.
This is where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm ready.
You've got one host passionately arguing for some bold investments.
Okay.
He's not afraid to use some colorful language either. He calls the recent loan signings Blindgranaten.
What does that even mean?
Smoke grenades?
Smoke grenades. So he's saying...
He's basically saying these loans are clever, but they lack the firepower to really elevate the team.
Ah, I see. So he's dreaming of St. Pauli making a splash in the transfer market.
Yeah.
Shaking things up a bit.
Right.
Now we have the other side of the coin, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Economist over here is all about caution.
Oh, okay.
He even compares splurging on expensive players to waking up with a Captain Morgan Christmas edition hangover.
Oh, man.
Exactly. He's reminding everyone about the club's commitment to financial stability.
Yeah.
Sustainable growth, not jeopardizing their future for a quick fix.
All right, so despite all this talk of big spending, St. Pauli has actually brought in 2 new players on loan.
Interesting.
James Sands from New York City FC and Noah Weishaupt from Germany.
All right, let's meet these new additions.
Let's do it.
James Sands is a midfielder with a fascinating background. He's played for Glasgow Rangers.
Wow.
Experiencing that fierce rivalry with Celtic firsthand.
Okay.
The Source podcast actually compares joining St. Pauli after Rangers to going from, say, HSV to Celtic.
Whoa, talk about a shift in intensity.
Right. And get this, Sands has even played in the Champions League.
Wow.
And the Europa League. That's some serious experience.
That is.
Then we have Noah Weishaupt, a young winger.
Yeah.
Who adds a bit of local flavor to the mix.
Cool.
His father actually played for Hamburg SV.
Really?
Which sparks a funny debate.
Oh, I bet.
Among the podcast hosts.
Yeah.
One of them jokes that St. Pauli should be aiming higher than signing players from Rostock.
That's hilarious.
It's that kind of banter that gives you a real sense of the dynamics between these friends and their deep connection to the club.
I love that.
But these new signings also raise a crucial question. Do they solve St. Pauli's scoring problem?
Good question.
To understand that we need to dive into the world of expected goals, or XG.
Oh.
Don't worry, you don't need to be a stats whiz to get this.
Thank goodness.
Essentially, XG is a way to measure how many goals a team should be scoring.
Okay.
Based on the quality of their chances.
So, like, how good those chances actually are?
Exactly. And St. Pauli's XG is telling a very frustrating story.
What is it saying?
They're creating opportunity.
Yeah.
They're just not finding the back of the net. as often as they statistically should.
So frustrating.
And this fuels the debate we talked about earlier.
Right.
Does this XG conundrum make the case for a goal-scoring Wandspieler?
Which means?
A target man.
Gotcha.
Even stronger.
Yeah. So one of the hosts is firmly in the yes camp.
He is.
He argues that they desperately need that clinical finisher.
Makes sense.
Who can capitalize on those chances and turn draws into wins.
But of course, there's pushback.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The other host argues that relying on one star player isn't the St. Pauli way.
It's a team effort.
He believes in building a system where everyone contributes, where the goals come from multiple sources.
So it's a classic football debate.
It is.
It's one that St. Pauli fans are grappling with right now.
For sure.
It's not just about tactics.
It goes deeper than that.
It's about the very identity of the club.
And this deep dive isn't just about on-field strategy.
Right.
Geo St. Pauli, 2025. Podcast goes deep into the philosophical heart of what it means to be a St. Pauli fan in this era.
Cool.
They're asking tough questions about priorities and values.
Like what?
Like, is staying in the Bundesliga at all costs the ultimate goal? Or is there something more important, something about staying true to the club's unique culture and ethos,
right?
Even if it means taking a step back?
Yeah. And here's a detail that really jumped out at me.
Oh, yeah.
The word culture appears only once in the club's official guiding principles document.
Wow.
This really worries the podcast host.
I bet.
They see it as a sign that maybe the club isn't putting enough emphasis on what makes them special.
Yeah.
What sets them apart from the rest.
And they're particularly concerned about appealing to younger generations.
Yeah.
Fans who might be drawn to the excitement of the Bundesliga,
right,
but who might not fully grasp the deeper meaning of what it means to support St. Pauli.
So it's this fear of losing their soul as they grow.
Exactly.
Of becoming just another generic football club chasing glory.
And which brings us to another fascinating aspect of this source material.
Yeah.
Remember, we're listening to a fan podcast.
Right.
And they actually reveal some surprising stats about their own listeners.
Oh, wow.
It turns out, St. Pauli, 2025,
yeah,
has a surprisingly international audience.
Oh, really?
Especially strong in the United States.
Interesting.
This is fascinating because traditionally, St. Pauli's fan base has been very local, very much rooted in the Hamburg community.
Yeah.
So this international interest is both exciting and a bit daunting for a club.
Makes sense.
That prides itself on its close ties to its neighborhood, to its city.
I see.
It raises questions about how to manage this newfound global attention without losing sight of who they are.
And the podcast hosts see the official FC St. Pauli blog as a key part of this balancing act.
They do.
They praise it as a space for deeper dives, for behind-the-scenes insights, for content that goes beyond the typical match reports and press releases.
So they believe the blog is a step in the right direction.
They do.
A way to connect with fans on a more personal level.
Exactly, but they're hungry for even more.
Like what?
They imagine blogs written by club officials.
Oh, wow.
Even the coach himself.
Interesting.
Sharing their unfiltered perspectives, their hopes, their doubts, their strategies.
It's this desire for transparency, for authenticity that really comes through in this podcast.
I agree.
They want to feel like they're part of the conversation, not just passive spectators.
And it's that same spirit of engagement that we're bringing to this deep dive.
Right.
We're not just summarizing the source material.
No.
We're exploring it, debating it, connecting it to the bigger picture of what it means to be a football fan in 2025.
And as we move into the next part of this deep dive,
yeah,
I want you to consider this question.
Okay.
If you were suddenly in charge of FC St. Pauli,
ooh,
what would your strategy be?
What a question.
How would you balance these competing demands of tradition, ambition, local roots, and global appeal?
Now that's something to think about. It's a tough question, right? Especially for a club like St. Pauli with such a unique identity.
Yeah, no doubt.
And speaking of identity, let's circle back to those two new loan signings.
Right.
James Sands and Noah Weishaupt.
Yeah, what about M. Sand?
They're not just names on a roster, right? They represent potential solutions and even fuel some of those debates we've been talking about.
For sure. Right.
So let's start with James Sands.
Okay.
The fact that he comes from New York City FC and played for Glasgow Rangers adds an interesting layer to this conversation.
So?
About global appeal, right? It shows that St. Pauli is already attracting talent.
Okay.
From different footballing cultures.
It's interesting, though, because his arrival also sparked that funny comparison in the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Joining St. Pauli after Rangers is like going from HSV to Celtic.
I mean, Yeah, when you think about it.
It highlights that even as the club attracts international players, those local rivalries remain at the heart of the fan experience.
Exactly. It's like this reminder that no matter how big St. Pauli gets, those core relationships, those intense local dynamics will always be part of their DNA.
Now, Noah Weishaupt, being a young German player and the son of a former Hamburg SV player, adds a different kind of intrigue.
Totally.
It taps into that question of tradition and lineage.
Remember how one of the podcast hosts joked that St. Pauli should aim higher than signing players from Rostock?
Oh, yeah.
It's all in good fun, but it reveals that underlying tension, right?
Oh, totally.
Between loyalty to local talent and the desire to compete at the highest level.
It also brings up the question of what kind of players best embody the St. Pauli spirit. Is it about local roots, or is it about something more intangible?
Right, like a certain attitude.
Yeah, commitment to the club's values.
And this all circles back to that expected goals dilemma.
Right.
These two new loan signings, while exciting, don't necessarily address that glaring need for a clinical finisher, that Wanschgiller who can turn those chances into goals.
And the debate rages on in the podcast. Right?
Oh, it does.
One host remains adamant
that
a proven goal scorer is the missing piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
He believes that without that firepower, St. Pauli risks slipping back down to the second division.
But the other host, ever the pragmatist,
he is,
argues that there's more to success than just individual brilliance.
Okay, I like it.
He believes that St. Pauli's strength lies in their collective spirit.
Right.
Their system of play, their ability to create chances for everyone.
And here's where it gets really thought-provoking.
Okay, tell me.
He uses this fantastic analogy.
Right.
You'll never make a Ferrari out of this car.
Okay.
But you can build a solid electric car that will get you where you need to go.
I love that.
Perfectly captures the essence of St. Pauli, right?
Yeah.
They're not flashy.
Nope.
They're not about quick fixes.
Not at all.
But they're reliable, sustainable, and committed to doing things their own way.
It's about the long-term vision.
Exactly.
Not just chasing immediate results.
And it ties back to that earlier point about financial stability.
Right.
Remember the Captain Morgan Christmas edition hangover?
Oh, yeah.
The message is clear.
What is it?
St. Pauli is not going to sacrifice their future for a short-term sugar rush.
I mean, that makes sense.
It's about being smart.
Yeah.
Being resourceful.
Yeah.
And finding success on their own terms.
Okay, so here's something that really struck me as we were listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
The hosts revealed that they have a surprisingly large international audience.
Really?
Particularly in the United States.
That's a fascinating insight, right?
It is.
Because it speaks to that growing global interest in St. Pauli.
It does.
A club that has traditionally been so closely associated with its local community.
It raises a lot of interesting questions.
Like what?
Like, can St. Pauli maintain its unique identity as it attracts fans from all over the world?
Good question.
Is there a way to bridge that gap between the diehards in Hamburg and those tuning in from across continents?
And this is where the podcast hosts highlight the importance of the FC St. Pauli blog.
Okay.
They see it as a vital tool for connecting with fans on a deeper level.
I see.
For sharing the story of the club.
Right.
Beyond just match results.
They're big fans of the blog.
They are.
But they also challenge the club to be even more daring, more transparent.
Okay, how so?
They imagine a world where club officials, even the coach himself, use the blog to communicate directly with fans.
Interesting.
Sharing their insights, their challenges, their vision for the future.
It's this idea of bringing fans inside the decision-making process, right?
Exactly.
Fostering that sense of community and shared purpose that makes St. Pauli so special.
And this leads us to another key theme that emerges from the podcast.
Which is?
The importance of appealing to younger generations.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They worry that the values and traditions of St. Pauli might get lost.
Yeah, I can see that.
As the fan base grows and diversifies.
It's a challenge that a lot of clubs are facing.
Yeah.
How to stay relevant in a rapidly changing world.
Right.
How to attract new fans without alienating the old guard.
And for St. Pauli, with its deeply rooted history and unique identity, it's a particularly complex dilemma.
It is.
And as we head into the final part of this deep dive, I want you to keep that question in mind.
All right.
How can a club like St. Pauli balance its local roots with its growing global appeal? It's like walking a tightrope. You know?
Yeah. I see it.
Holding on to what makes St. Pauli special.
Yeah.
While also embracing those new opportunities, those new voices coming in.
And the podcast hosts offer up a pretty radical solution.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
More direct communication from the club itself.
Yeah.
They're talking about blog posts written by club officials.
Wow.
Even the coach himself.
Can you imagine?
Right.
Getting a glimpse into the coach's game plan.
Yeah.
His perspective on player development.
It'd be amazing.
His take on those big philosophical debates the fans are having.
It would be a level of transparency and authenticity that you rarely see in professional football.
It could be a game changer.
It could.
In terms of building trust and connection with fans.
Totally.
Both locally and globally.
And it would also be a brilliant way to address those concerns.
Right.
About appealing to younger fans.
Yeah.
Give them a voice. Let them hear directly from the people shaping the club's future.
I like it.
It's about fostering that sense of community, that feeling that everyone is in this together.
Right.
Regardless of where they're watching from.
But of course, it's not without its risks, right?
Of course not.
More transparency means more scrutiny, more potential for criticism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think the podcast hosts would argue that it's a risk worth taking.
I think so, too.
For a club like St. Pauli, with its strong moral compass, its commitment to honesty and integrity, being open and vulnerable is a way to live their values.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
And it would certainly set them apart.
It would.
In a world where so many clubs are obsessed with controlling their image.
Oh, yeah.
Hiding behind carefully crafted PR statements.
So this deep dive has taken us from the nitty-gritty of transfer talk and expected goals to some pretty profound questions about identity.
Big questions.
Values. And the soul of a football club.
You've explored the hopes and anxieties of St. Pauli fans.
We have.
As they navigate the challenges of staying true to themselves.
That's not easy.
While also striving for success in one of the most competitive leagues in the world.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought from the podcast that really resonated with me.
Right. I'm listening.
One of the hosts said, and I'm paraphrasing here.
Go ahead.
You can't just slap a skull and crossbones on something and call it St. Pauli.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is right. It gets to the heart of what makes this club so special.
It does.
It's not about aesthetics. It's not about marketing.
It's about something deeper.
It's about a deeply held set of beliefs, a way of being in the world.
And I think that's a lesson that goes far beyond football.
I agree.
It's a reminder that true authenticity, true integrity comes from within.
It can't be faked.
It can't.
It can't be manufactured.
So as you follow St. Pauli's journey this season, and as you watch other clubs navigate their own challenges, keep this in mind.
Okay.
Look beyond the logos, the slogans, the trophies.
The superficial stuff.
Ask yourself, what are their values? What do they stand for?
Good questions.
And maybe, just maybe, you'll find that the most successful clubs,
the ones that really connect,
the ones that truly connect with fans, aren't the ones with the biggest budgets or the most famous players.
Interesting.
But the ones who stay true to themselves no matter what.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the passion for the beautiful game alive.